Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective. Welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Peter Fenger, and today I'm joined by Jake Yanitz Rubin. Jake is a clinical hypnotherapist, teacher, and author of From Anxiety to Awakening, 11 Insights that Transform Worry into Wisdom and Fear into Freedom. After years of battling anxiety, Jake came to a powerful realization. Anxiety wasn't something to fix, it was something to listen to. That insight led him to a journey from fear and overthinking to peace and lasting transformation. Today, he helps others do the same, offering a fresh, deeply human approach to healing. We're thrilled to welcome Jake onto the show today to explore his new book and its powerful invitation to rethink anxiety, not as something to fix, but as a wise teacher guiding us toward greater clarity, freedom, and inner awakening. Jake, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you, Peter. Great to be here. Excited to start our conversation.
Yeah, as am I. Again, I've had a chance to kind of dive into your book, and I'm so appreciative that you were able to share that with me because your book really kind of touched me in ways that other books haven't. You know, one of the privileges that I have as sort of host and producer of the show is that we get to meet with a lot of different authors and a lot of really great innovative thinkers and ideas. But your book really hit in a way that I haven't seen other people go. And I'm very excited to kind of dive into that. But I'd really like to start from the beginning. And I want to ask you, what inspired you to write From Anxiety to Awakening? And what was sort of the stories that you encountered that helped you sort of shift this belief or your relationship with anxiety?
Yeah. So the inspiration for the book came from my own life.
Mm-hmm.
I got to a point in my life where the anxiety that I was experiencing became unbearable for me.
Mm.
It started off like a low grade worry, like for most people, right? Like, maybe it's like after college or even high school, you kind of start to worry, like what's going to happen? How's my life going to unfold? And that worry was always like this current under my life. And as more responsibility, marriage, family, children, all of these things kind of added to my life, my worry and my anxiety went up because I felt like there's so many variables I can't control. And at some point, something's going to break and that's going to be kind of like the end of me,
Right.
And it all came to a head one night when it was a really stressful day. The kids needed my attention. The wife needed my attention. The dog needed my attention. Things were with our finances weren't good. It was everything at once. And I just started feeling my heart just like pounding.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this doesn't feel good. I think I was having a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I knew that that's probably what it was. But at some point, my heart started kind of beating irregularly. And I ended up in the ER. And amidst the beeping and the machines and everything, I had this kind of moment where I said, I can't keep living like this. Like, this is going to kill me. And that was several years ago before the book. And I just started to really want to understand, like, what is this anxiety? What is this? And even in my hypnotherapy practice, as I was helping people, I began to recognize, wait, I have anxiety myself. I'm experiencing this. So what's going on?
Right.
And as I continue to learn and dig deeper and deeper and deeper, I one night spontaneously just kind of downloaded these 11 insights. You know how they say things just kind of come in? And the whole book, in a sense, formed in my mind. Not all the details, not all the chapters, but the structure of the book came in. I quickly wrote it all down. And then from that moment on, I began to recognize that things in my life had happened for a reason, and there was a lesson in those things. And that's what I share in the book. And I show the reader how that transformation is available to them too.
Yes. Yeah. You're creating meaning from all of those. And as you're explaining, your story, and as I've read your book and the stories that you're sharing in there, your story is my story. I found myself in so many of those situations, and by having a chance for you to sort of mirror it back to me,
Yeah.
you're opening up these things. They sort of call this moment of awareness, especially when we're talking about anxiety, as sort of a blossoming, right?
That's right.
And that was my experience. I too ended up in the ER. It was around anxiety and stress in my life, and I had to make changes in my life that took me on these similar paths. What was so revealing within your book was just even the deeper layers that you've gotten that I haven't really done that inner work, but you revealed to me a path, a way to start peeling away some of these layers. But just starting from maybe your definition of it. And I love the way you're describing it. You're saying anxiety is not your enemy, it's your greatest teacher. That's a profound shift. So,
Absolutely.
talk to me about how you're trying to redefine the relationship of our anxiety.
Yes. And that's really was the aha for me, is recognizing that what we have as a society labeled as a mental disorder
Yes.
is not. And I
Yes.
know how much of a paradigm shift that is, and I think it's very important for me to clearly state it. Anxiety is the invitation to look within. Anxiety is the alarm clock of the soul ringing to tell you to wake up from whatever you've been doing that's not working. And
Right.
so that's really where the book starts, is helping the reader recognize, let's just put on hold your beliefs right now and let's look at things a little bit differently. And without going into too much detail, the example is this: we are not separate from nature. We are one aspect of nature. Okay. And if you look at nature, you see transformation everywhere. Okay. The seed becomes the sapling, that becomes the tree, right? The caterpillar goes into a cocoon, it transforms, it becomes a butterfly. The
Yes.
coal becomes the diamond. We are not separate from that. We
Right.
are also part of a transformation of consciousness. And so the anxiety is not meant to destroy us. It is the fire that burns away our false beliefs. It is the friction that creates an opportunity for growth. And this is why we're here. So the anxiety is by design. And we've now sadly labeled it a mental disorder and handing out pills for it to try to just cover the symptoms instead of really recognizing what it is.
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's very interesting, as you sort of define this. As our society has advanced, we, moved into cities, etc. We've gotten away from nature. And some of those natural rhythms that come from helping us relax by being within nature, having those somatic movements, we're sort of lost that as a society. But your book is kind of re-inviting us to discover that, and even just kind of sharing some of the systems that might not be benefiting us. I'm going to kind of jump into this one. One of the ways that you sort of helped define what is eating into our or feeding into our anxiety is really some of the systems. You're talking about the news system, you're talking about your nutrition system. And the way that you sort of reframe this is breaking out of it. So we don't have to stick to that system, but we can focus on whole foods. We don't have to contribute into that. And I thought that was a huge shift. We don't have to contribute by buying into the fear system that is the media cycle. You've identified that it's contributing it and providing the way around it, the solution to it.
Yeah. We have so much power to choose what we focus on. I mean, ultimately, right? As you get into the book, you recognize the deeper truth of who we are,
Yes.
and we have choices, right? We always have choices. The news is not meant to inform you. I said talk about it in the book. Maybe in like the 50s or 60s, the newsman would just come out and say like, this is what happened today. But now it's charged with so much opinion and so much fear because those
Right.
fears, the fear gets clicks, it gets eyes,
Right.
it gets revenue.
Right.
All of these systems are meant to keep your focus on outside of you, because if you become too powerful, you become a threat to the system.
Yes. One
So
dimensional.
many people may be functioning within the system without the awareness of it, but ultimately the powers that be know this.
Right.
So yeah, so we have a choice to think differently, to live differently, to be different.
Yeah. Yeah. And that choice is really powerful. You really do a good job of kind of empowering the reader that they have options there. But I want to kind of go back and I want to talk about the intentionality of your book because, like I said, I've had a chance to read other self-help books. Your book is different. You almost write your book in a way of micro mind shifts. And there isn't, exercises or practices that you're asking somebody to do. In fact, you kind of label it like some of those practices create a lot of judgment. It just enhances your anxiety. Yours is almost like food thought. And
Yeah.
as I've digested it, I constantly go through this where I'm reading it and I go, huh. And something just shifts in me to where by the time I hit the end of the chapter, I've got a different relationship to that insight. And I
Yeah.
thought it was very brilliant. So talk to me a little bit about your intentionality on how
Sure.
you wrote it.
So I have to give credit to, the divine energy that downloaded this
Mhm.
book so that I could channel it, because the design of the book also came from my own thoughts of like how I would like to read a self-help book. And I've read many, many, as I mentioned in the book, and they haven't helped me. And when you start making a book something that someone has to do and struggle through, you're not helping, especially when someone has anxiety.
Mhm.
So the way that this is structured is appealing back. Absolutely, it's appealing back.
Yes.
Instead of me coming out and telling you, hey, here's who you are, here's what you are, here's what this life is, I peel back every illusion. I tell you, first of all, anxiety isn't what you think it is. You're not the programming that you've received as a child as from society. And you're not this, and you're not that, and you're not this, and you're not that. And it's irrefutable. Science supports it. You and your own awareness supports it. And so as you read the book and you recognize this, you start to shift. And by the end, you have now left off everything you're not so that what you are and who you are can truly shine through. So there was a lot of intention in the structure of the insights. A lot of the downloads, a lot of the examples from my life just came in and I would write them. And they came in and they were just like, I took, I think, almost more time editing and structuring the book in an order that would make sense than writing the individual reflections, because the
Yeah.
structure and the order was very, very important. Because I think you would agree, this is not a book that you read and get information. This book takes you on a journey of transformation.
Yes.
It's like hypnosis, hypnotherapy. As a hypnotherapist, right? It's
Right.
hypnotherapy in a book form,
Yes.
but it's
Yeah.
dehypnosis. It's dehypnotizing you actually from all of the false beliefs. I think that's
Yeah.
very important to say.
Yeah, and that's actually like one of the questions that I had written. Wasn't quite sure if I was going to ask it in this interview, but you kind of alluded to it here. And I'm really curious about as a hypnotherapist, do you have any of that DNA in the writing? Because it's almost like self-suggesting as you sort
Hmm.
of reveal some of these truths. And I find myself being like, yeah, that's what I believe. Yeah, that's what I believe. You're right. That's what I think. And I'm following you along in that consciousness.
Right.
Again, there's a degree of self-hypnosis that goes along with this, the truths that you're revealing. But I'm curious because I thought that there was like a layer of maybe intentionality on how you wrote it.
Absolutely. It came through in the same way that I do my sessions,
Yes.
in the sense that, first of all, you said, it's like I knew you. But
Right.
the reality is, it's as if we're all one person. We're all the same with just a different circumstances.
Mhm.
And I think my book shows that and holds that mirror to say, what I went through is just like what you're going through. Maybe the details are a little different, but there's another side to it. And so, yes, absolutely. My intention was to dehypnotize the reader, was to stay away from exercises and just have the reader
Yes.
just think about this and
Yes.
ask yourself, is it true? I'm not giving you anything you don't already know. I am not
Yes.
holding some pot of like, here's information and I'm going to feed it to you. I'm just revealing what's already true. And so when you see it and you read it, you go, clearly that's the truth because I feel it and I know it.
And there's so many lessons that you have within the book of just that. You already have it. The happiness is already there.
Yep.
Your power, you already had that option. the way that you've presented this information is not only just gratifying maybe an unrestful soul, recognizing that we have the things in our life already. You're asking us to tap into gratitude. You're empowering us. You're giving us awareness for us to kind of pause before we react and think about maybe the behavior. You're giving awareness to maybe some of the behaviors that there is a level of ego that's sort of driving this.
Hmm.
Yeah. Again,
Absolutely.
it's brilliantly written, and
Thank you.
again, it was one of these books that really connected with me.
I
But
really appreciate that.
I want to
You know,
go, but I want to go back and I want to try and provide our listeners a little bit
yeah,
more context to maybe the intentionality of the 11 insights, because you're talking
yeah.
about 11 insights. You're helping us move into wisdom and freedom,
From
and
worry to wisdom and from fear to freedom. Yes.
freedom, exactly. And I'm curious about one, talk to us about those 11 insights, just so that
Mhm.
the readers might have an idea of some of the concepts that you're covering, and then
Yeah.
maybe some of the thinking around why these 11.
Sure. So it's interesting that the number is 11 because 11 holds a lot of, spiritual significance. The insights begin very simple, and they progressively become more and more abstract and perhaps complex, but there's a
Yes.
groundwork that's laid, right? So
Yes.
the first insight is you are not your mind, thoughts, or emotions, which addresses the mind noise, the mental noise that we all carry. The
Mhm.
second insight is the present moment is all there is. Recognizing that anxiety exists when we try to fast forward to the future, when we try to plan a future that is unknown. That's where anxiety lives. And so recognizing the present moment is all we have is powerful. And then it moves into a little different, deeper phase, which is when you stop fighting life, you and yourself, you start living. So beginning the idea of surrender, maybe like you don't need to grip onto the wheel so darn tight. Maybe
Mhm.
there is an intelligence that's guiding you.
Right.
And it goes deeper and deeper from there. Then I talk about the ego. I talk about how you love yourself, and self love is how you love
Right.
your life.
Right.
Then I begin to get even more specific on how life is happening for us and not just to us. And then I started getting even more, I guess mystical, you could call it. But the reality is that now science is supporting what I'm saying,
Yes.
and just really understanding the nature of this reality and who we
Yes.
are and what we are. And if you follow it, I would love to hear like your experience as you progress through, because
Good.
it's so interesting for me to know how did you feel as you went through it?
Yeah, and again, I think, some of the things that really connected with me were just some of the metaphors.
Yes.
So, one of the ways that you've done a really good job, again, you are making anxiety a less scary experience. You're saying, let's get a little bit more curious. Let's not run from it or trigger a fear response, but let's try to find maybe some meaning behind it. Second thing you're doing a really good job of is you're asking folks to pause, right? We understand that there's anxiety. It's natural. One of the metaphors that I absolutely loved is that you're comparing anxiety to a wild horse and that you are giving it a chance to step off and let it run, right? We're giving an opportunity for us to
Yeah.
pause and just notice it. And also creating a safe space for us to have it, for us to go through maybe that experience and see it to the end and recognize that we're going to be okay by the end of it. Second thing you also are doing is you're really kind of bringing us back into the present and also understanding that that presence in that moment is almost the antidote to anxiety, right? And I find myself recognizing when I go into maybe those anxious thoughts, when I can recognize and I can pull myself back into the present, I can almost stop myself from the spiral, which again is just adding a lot more clarity to how I'm living my life. And then these other things that you're suggesting, the ego or self-opinion, right? It all goes back to how I'm sort of shifting or maybe putting on these additional pressures that might be contributing to my anxiety, right?
Mhm.
How I might have defenses, right? Somebody
But
comes at me and they've got a really aggressive attitude. You're saying it's not about you. You don't have to get triggered by that. It's about them. and then trying to come to peace with that and really recognizing that the relationships in our life can try and pull us into some of these narratives that we have from an ego point of view. But when we can recognize it, we can break from it, we can create a lot more peace with ourselves and peace with the relationships in our lives. And again, it just goes back. You're cultivating the inner work, you're cultivating the relational work. It's all kind of coming through in this book, and it's pretty incredible.
Thank you. I know that it didn't come directly through me when directly from me when I go and read the book and read what has come through. And I just go like, wow, this is powerful stuff. And I do recognize that. And I think that it brings me so much joy to have this out there and to share it, because contained within this book, it's like a liberation manual in a sense.
Yes.
It's like it takes you through up to a place to let go into the truth of who you are.
Yes.
But yeah, that's really was always my intention with this.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because through all of this, it's helping me not only see some of the things that don't necessarily serve me as an individual, but I'm starting to recognize things within society that doesn't serve us as a community.
Right.
And that I think is the extra layer to all of this. Not only, does this work help us from an individual level, but it ripples out within the relationships in our life.
Big time. And then the ripple continues and continues. And ultimately, we change the world. Yeah, it's not an easy world we live in right now. This is a rough world, given what just happened, we know. And it doesn't even matter when someone's listening to this, they're going to be like, I know exactly what just happened, and it'll be something else.
Yes. Yeah.
The way we change the world is by first changing ourselves. It starts within. And unfortunately, this world and the way it's kind of set up, and this is the root of anxiety, is trying to control everything around you. And if you can't control it, you can oppose it and you can be at war with it. That doesn't work. That's anxiety provoking because you can't. And so you're trying to do something like my flashlight analogy, right? Like the mind is like a flashlight.
I love it.
It's there to show you what's in front of you, but it can't show you what's around the corner. It can't show you what's behind the wall.
Yes.
Our mind is designed to help us with what we have right here. And once we turn our attention inward and really focus on changing ourselves and raising our consciousness and really moving away, the polarity is between fear and love. You've heard it probably 1,000 times. On one end it's fear, on the other end it's love.
Yes.
Becoming more love-like, becoming more aligned with the energy of love towards yourself, towards others. That's how we change the world.
Yeah. And one of the stories that kind of comes to my mind, you're talking about how you and your wife were on a walk with your dog. You ran into a neighbor who had a dog that was off leash.
Yeah.
And there was just a small comment about love for if you as a neighbor would put your dog on a leash, and your neighbor got really upset, but you approached it from this, again, recognizing that his reaction was his own stuff. You're not trying to bring up in, but you met it with love, and you wished him a good life, right?
Yeah.
And walked on, and you let it go. And I think those are some of the shifts that allows us to move through life clearly, to move through life smoothly, and for us to sort of align with a better, truer self.
Absolutely. I mean, we always, like I said, have the option, and when that happened and he yelled out, F you, basically, to my wife and I for saying, maybe you can put your dog on it. And we didn't say it in a rude, so maybe you can put the dog on a leash. The dog came out to it and ran towards our dog. We thought the dog was going to get attacked.
Right.
And for him to have that response, and I said, really, you're going to talk to your neighbor that way? And he's like, yeah, I am. And I was like, all right, you know what? Have a good life. And I walked away and let it go and had a great afternoon with my wife and kids. And we did stuff. The old version of me, oh my goodness, I would have been holding it and carrying it and be like, I can't wait. If I see this guy in the street, I'm going to give him a dirty look. Or I might have even gone into a physical fight with him right then.
Right.
And that doesn't ever end well. So it's recognizing that his response came from his own ego, his own, that scared little boy within him that was like, well, is she more powerful than me? And like, are they trying to kind of one up me? Like, I'm going to show them. It's like, all right, you have that. You can own that. That's fine. You don't need to teach others how to be. Let them be who they are. Their process is their process. Their journey is their journey. And you always can come into yourself and respond instead of react.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Nearly 9 in 10 registered voters believe the nation faces a mental health crisis, according to a new USA Today Suffolk University poll. Americans are more concerned than ever about their mental health. Mental Health First Aid provides the resources and training to identify, understand, and respond to signs of mental health and substance use challenges. It provides the confidence and skills needed to offer life-saving assistance, and it provides peace of mind. Our experts provide mental health first aid training for adults, teens, caregivers, veterans, law enforcement, EMS, and school faculty. Mental health concerns are on the rise, but evidence-based training through mental health first aid can make a difference. Visit mentalhealthfirstaid.org to find a course near you, or email hello@mentalhealthfirstaid.org to schedule a training. Courses are available for individuals, groups, organizations, and companies of all sizes. Visit mentalhealthfirstaid.org and make a difference in your community.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a good lesson in being able to understand whose emotional stories are whose, right? That way we can sort of own our own and let go those that have their own, right? We're all kind of going through this together. It's a human experience. And I think that that's like one of the lovely parts of your book is that you're really showing that it is a human experience. We're all kind of going through it and we can just be a little bit more aware. I think that that pause is incredibly empowering for folks to be able to have that relationship with their anxiety differently.
Yeah. What changed for you as you read the book, and where did you find yourself putting into practice this new perspective?
I think I kind of see relationships differently that I have. When I'm interacting with folks, I know, we have a lot of meetings at work, and I'm trying to create a persona or a perspective of myself. I kind of recognize some of those things in myself of that. I don't have to be perfect. Even just doing this podcast, right? I've got all these notes and I'm trying to come prepared and be professional and trying to ask the right questions to really give our listeners a chance to understand your book and understand you. But I think the other side of that is trying to be more authentic, right? We've gone off script. I'm asking questions I didn't prepare for. We're even having this conversation right now. And I think that that is the part I'm trying to tap into. I'm recognizing this feeling of authenticity. I'm recognizing trying to align with some of those values. You're helping me sort of see some of the things that I want to be, and even just the relationship of myself, and even just maybe the societal pressures that I'm recognizing. And some of that stuff just kind of falling off differently. Yeah. It's helped me live a life with less weight than previously.
That's excellent. I mean, that brings me so much joy to hear that. That was my intention, is to lighten the load for people, to help them recognize, and I think you said it beautifully, authenticity is really what it's about. We come into this world, as a baby, we grow up, we have a soul, we have a way we want to be. And then parents and society and the world starts to kind of layer us with, well, you can't do that, and you can't be like this, and well, if you do that, that's going to happen, and we become smaller and smaller. But really, who we are is limitless, and each of us is here to be our own unique, authentic frequency. We're not meant to be like anyone else. There's no need to compare, because there is no comparison. There is only one unique you, me, every listener. It's like snowflakes, Every snowflake is unique, and one is not more beautiful or better than another. The raindrop analogy I have in the book, that was an amazing download, and I won't get into the story now, but I'll leave that one for the listeners if they decide to get the book. But recognizing that we're all just different expressions of this same thing. And that's what we're meant to be. So the more authentic you are, the more joy you have in living.
Yes.
And that's what I would want to share with a listener as well, is just, you're here to be you. You don't need to be or act a certain way. You are here to like play your music. You know, the late great Wayne Dyer, one of my favorite inspirational teachers, said, don't die with your music still in you. I'm going to choke up just talking about it, because this book is my music. My work is my music. I know that I'm not going to die with my music still in me. And I would encourage every person listening to recognize you're here to do great things. You're here to be you. And don't die with your music still in you, because the world wants to hear it. And whether that's you're a baker, you're a producer, you're a writer, you're a parent, it doesn't matter who or what you are, what role you play, but being your authentic self is why we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the books that I had read recently, and I'm a big champion of it, and it's sort of made a really profound shift in my own life, is The Artist's Way. Essentially is some of the same concepts that you're revealing, right? When we are able to sort of tap into our creator source, we can live our life in the way of sort of our true self, our true purpose. And we can do that through creativity and stuff. But one of the lessons it has in there is about trying to figure out what we wanted to create as artists, right? This is sort of a perspective as artists, and being able to reignite that dream and live it authentically. And some of the concepts that you're talking about within your book, you're talking compassion, love, all of these things, again, kind of ripple within the literature of this book as well. We are given a gift in life. And when we are able to recognize that gift and we're able to give it freely in this world, we can live our life in right ways. And I think that this is the gift of your book, is really helping folks strip down some of those layers that might have blurred that vision of that true self and sort of realign with ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the analogy of the bird in the cage, you know. It's
Yes.
And I'll share that with the listeners. You know, anxiety makes you think that you're like a bird trapped in a cage. And you're looking at the bars and you're like, there's no way out of here. Okay. But the reality is that the cage actually has no back. But you don't see it because you're perched on that little stick and you're only facing this way. And you keep looking this way and all you see is bars. If you were to flip around and just look the other way, you would see that the back has always been open to the cage, meaning there was no cage. You always had the freedom available to you, but you need to look at things differently. You need to turn around, have an open mind, and begin to recognize that the illusion of the bars is just that. The illusion of being trapped is just that. You have never been trapped. The freedom has always been yours, but it takes a perspective shift.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. You know, I know we've kind of hit on some of these concepts already, you know, of spirituality and our connection to the source or the creator. But really kind of curious, how do you sort of see the relationship of awakening from anxiety and spiritual growth? And how does that sort of unfold?
You know, the book really walks the reader through that transformation. And essentially, at the deepest level, we in the perspective shift around anxiety that the book takes the reader through, and the perspective shift around anxiety, we begin to turn within. And as we peel away layers and layers and layers of everything we're not, we begin to understand what we are. And what science is now showing, and what I'm about to share with you, by the way, might sound very crazy. It might sound like that can't really be what it is. But I can assure you that as someone who was very skeptical most of my life, not a non-spiritual person, agnostic, maybe even atheist at points, what I'm sharing with you is now backed by science. And it's the same thing that spiritual traditions have told us for millennia. The more we peel back, we begin to recognize that what we consider physical reality, what we think of like, well, this is a thing in time and space. Like I have a bottle here and it exists right here. And it sure looks like it, right? I mean, it looks like I'm holding this bottle.
Right.
But if you start to zoom in, at some point you don't find like a fixed structure. You don't find like, I'll give you like, you don't find like atoms, like solid things that are like connected, and you just
Right.
you begin to zoom in and you start to get into waves and probabilities, things that appear and disappear.
Yes.
And so you have to ask yourself, well, what the heck is going on? This is what science is showing us, that
Right.
things aren't as solid as they seem, that this bottle and everything in our physical reality is 99.9999999, and I can go on, percent empty space.
Right.
So then if this is not a physical reality, and the same thing applies to our body, you zoom in, you don't find physical matter. Same thing with our brain, same thing with our neurons. Okay, so then you have to ask the question, if this isn't a physical reality, then what the heck is this? Like, what is this reality?
Right.
And I had this thought today, everything that we do, almost everything we do these days, besides building structures and vehicles and things like that, is non-physical. Our communication right now is 100%, it's non-physical, okay? When you do work on a computer and you're saving documents and taking pictures, none of it is physical. It's all information. It's all digital. So I would say 90% plus of what we do in this world is non-physical. The internet is non-physical, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, structures exist or appear to exist. Cars, buildings, things like that appear physical, but most of our existence is non-physical. The point I'm trying to make is this. When you strip away when you strip away the illusion of what this reality is, we begin to understand that we are at our core, and this reality is non-physical, meaning we're not limited by the body. We're not limited by the physical reality. We exist within a physical reality or an apparent physical reality that has rules like gravity and structure. But we didn't invent math, we discovered math. We didn't invent physics, we discovered physics. So these structures, this coding already existed. And spiritual traditions have been telling us for thousands of years that, this reality is an illusion. Well, that means that who we think we are, the physical body, is also an illusion. So what are we? We are infinite, eternal energy of awareness. At the end of the day, we are part of the Creator's energy, and and we're not separate from it. It's the same way that if you take a thimble full of the ocean, what's in your thimble is no different than the ocean. It's the ocean in the thimble.
Right.
So that's what we are. We are not a drop of the ocean. We are the ocean in a drop. We are part of this unfathomable energy of intelligent source awareness. And that's what Jesus taught. That's what the Buddha has explained. This is what Vedanta shares. And it becomes irrefutable. At some point, science will have to come to the clear understanding that, okay, this is what it is. And so how do we live from that? That's my second book, by the way, but that's the truth of our existence.
Yeah. Wow. In a time that is incredibly divisive, when you put together those huge concepts, it really breaks down a lot of walls. And just recognizing that we're all kind of having the same human experience, that in relationship, there is a spiritual power that really kind of connects us all from a very core.
Yeah.
And, again, your book is already meeting with so much love and compassion, but to get to that level is so comforting, especially in a time when we sort of live in society where death is still a ultimate fear.
Yeah.
And I know your book kind of covers some of those, right?
Mhm.
It's a a very core fear for all of us. But when we start to reframe our thinking into some of these larger concepts, that journey that every human is going to have to go through is a lot less scary.
Right. Right. If you understand that the awareness that you are, that the energy of experiencing never is extinguished because it's who and what we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not contained in the physical body. The awareness is creating the sensation and experience of the physical body. Death is nothing to be feared. It's just a transformation of energy. But who you are, the I, the sense of I, existence, never goes away. And yes, it's mind-blowing. Yes,
Yeah.
it's like it's incredible to recognize that, because then you meet life a little lighter.
Mm-hmm.
You go like, I'm an infinite being. I don't have to stress. Their time is not really running out the way I think it is. This is just one aspect of experience that I am going through right now.
But
And
it
I'm going to learn
makes,
from it. I'm going to grow from it. I can laugh a little at it, at the ridiculousness of the world we're
right,
in,
right.
and spread some love, and spread love and be love.
But it also brings me back to the present moment of saying, like, boy, we're so infinite. It sure makes it good that we have the time today to do something, like have this conversation,
Yeah.
like being able to share this with our listeners today. Life can be a gift.
It
That's what you're
is.
showing.
It is a gift. And I can already hear you listeners saying, well, my life's not a gift because I'm going through XYZ and it's really hard.
Yeah.
Yes, the challenges absolutely exist, and they exist for everyone in different ways. I would encourage listeners, as you are going through the challenges in your life, to recognize that every challenge exists to grow you, to expand you, to shape you. It is not random. It is not to punish you. And when you're going through something challenging, you're human. It's normal to feel the emotions that you feel. It's normal to go through a process. And after you've had some chance to give it a little space, to ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn from this? What is am I supposed to gain from this? The answer will come when you're least expecting it. It may come right then. It may come later. It may come when you're in the shower or waking up or falling asleep. The answer will come. Most listeners, I would say every one of us can look back at our life and go, wow, this had to happen so this could happen. So I got me here. And I thought that was the worst thing in the world, but it
Yes.
actually was not the worst thing in the world because this happened and it got me here, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
There is an intelligence to life. The same intelligence that's spinning the galaxies, the same intelligence that is, put the seasons in place and the sun rises and sets. It's the same intelligence running our life. We don't have to grip on so tightly. We can just allow it to move through us and experience life and live from a place of love and peace. It's absolutely possible because I've been on both sides, and it's much better once you feel and understand and live as the truth of who you are.
Yes. Yeah. One of the beautiful quotes that I captured, you write, when you take good care of the now, your future takes care of itself. If you make the best choices you can in the moment, you'll find that the future unfolds naturally. I think
right.
that's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's
It's true.
beautiful.
It's recognizing that all of your power exists only now. What has already happened, like your past, is like the wake of a boat. You can look at it, you can think about it in this present moment, but like the wake of a boat, it has no impact on the direction of the boat. And the future is nothing but imagination. It's imagined. So recognizing that all of your power and the only thing you ever need to deal with is this moment.
Yes.
So the better choices you make, the more aligned choices you make, the future takes care of itself. You can't work on the future right now. So just work on the now.
I love it. I love it. Well, folks, I know we got through some pretty heady concepts today, but I assure you, it starts in such a gentle, compassionate way that by the time you reach the end, some of these concepts that Jake is sharing with us today will feel a little bit more aligned with your understanding. But I want to ask you, Jake, where can our listeners learn more about you and your work and your book, From Anxiety to Awakening? Where can they learn more?
Absolutely. So the best place is to go online to my site, which is anxietytoawakening.com. Over there, I have, links to get the book, the audio book, etc. I'm working on some courses, so I'm building up a waiting list for people that are interested in taking a course.
Love it.
There's also, I have a few spaces for one-on-one mentorship with me, which is something that I'm moving more, into slowly, and some resources there for the book as well, for readers of the book. So always love to hear from readers and have them share their thoughts and ideas around the book.
Well, you've certainly got my opinions today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Peter.
Thank you very much, Jake. I appreciate your time today.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
And I want to thank you, our listeners, for taking the time to join us. You can follow us on our social media at Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and more at Behavioral Health Today. If you like our show, give us 5 stars and leave us a review. And as always, our resources for this episode and an archive of all of our other episodes can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. And we look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today. We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Triad Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.